What's going on, nerds, nerdettes? It's Darth. We're back with another Queen's Blade Limit Break video, and I just want to start off by saying happy Friday to everybody. I'm going into the weekend. I want everybody to start it off right, which is why I wanted to get this video out as soon as possible. If you're in another country or time zone, it's already the weekend, and you're probably already drunk, so happy weekend to you. So, I hear there's a new warrior in town. Is that accurate? I'm just kidding, man. I already know it's accurate. I've already pulled for her. I already have her. We're talking about the brand new Ultra Rare Warrior and the very first Mind Attribute Ultra Rare Warrior introduced a day or so ago. And we're going to take a look at her today, what she does, how she does it. Is she great? Is she effective? All that stuff. Try to make this as brief as possible. There are some things about this warrior to go over, and I'm going to start off by saying, man, this warrior is really solid in my particular opinion, and I don't often say that right off the bat. I do have some issues with her, but I will also say that this warrior confuses me both emotionally and sexually. I don't often say that about, and I know that this is a spicy game, or so-called spicy game. So, what am I talking about, guys? Let's actually go in and take a look at it. We're talking about Fistar the Drunkard Master. And let's take a look at the look. And right away, you can see why I'm sexually confused. She looks like a 12 to 14-year-old girl. I'm sorry, I can't achieve maximum boner status if she's a little girl. I just can't do it. I'm sorry. Somebody sound off. I guess I should have taken a look at that. Is she actually, what is it with the mind attribute stat? So for some reason, when I look at them and their spicy poses, it's difficult for me because here in America, we're taught that anybody under 18 is off limits. We're taught that. And man, what the mind attributes just are known, in my opinion, for looking way too young to be even thought about in a spicy position. But anyways, that's sexually confusion, and I'll work that out eventually. But also confused emotionally, because she's got a lot going on here. She's got the India colors, which is awesome. It works for her. But she's a pirate. But she's got a Thanos glove on and Wolverine claws. I don't know. Is she a pirate? Is she Wolverine? I can't tell. She's got to be at least of legal age, because I'm willing to bet this isn't apple juice in this flask here. And if it is, it's probably a special brew. But she's got a companion. This companion is actually really cool. What is that, a water sprite? And she is definitely over 18. So worst comes to worst, we can make it with the water sprite. Anyways, that's weird. Let's move on to the... God damn it. Let's move it on to the spicy pose here. And there is definitely a lot wrong with this pose if she is underage. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that she just turned 18 and she's ready for whatever happened here that night. They tapped into the flask juice, and it looks like mommy wants a drink as well. Anyways, I'm going to move on before I either get too horny or just really, really upset or annoy you guys to no way. Let's jump into her skills. Okay, passive. 50% increase to attack. 30% increase to HP, crit rate plus 20%. I love seeing DPS type stats like crit rate, crit damage, and things like that on DPSs. And that's what she is. She's a warrior. She specializes in DPS. So crit rate, like all DPSs that are true DPSs, really need crit rate, guys. She's got a special ability that when triggering an attack skill, or the attack skill, the Spirit of Sake cooperates to attack and deal fixed damage, equivalent to 40% of the skill damage. I'm having a hard time kind of seeing this. Basically, anytime you see the water sprite show up and attack, she deals fixed damage. So, what I'm seeing on this is that when a skill is triggered, she shows up and deals fixed damage. So, basically triggering her turn 1 or turn 2 abilities, she's actually getting an extra attack from her little water sprite there. Little mommy showing up and, giving it up, I guess. I don't know. That's actually really cool. So she has an additional source of damage. However, one of the bread and butters of this one isn't her turn 2 ability or some of these other abilities, even though they are really potent. It's her turn 1 ability that gives her the bread and butter in my particular opinion. Turn 1, she goes in and inflicts Drunkard on all enemies, okay, for 2 turns. Drunkard is an enemy debuff if you don't know. It probably doesn't look like a debuff because these have golden auras above them. For both buffs and debuffs, they don't appear red like the normal ones do, which is kind of confusing. But anyway, she inflicts a debuff called Drunkard on all enemies on turn 1 ability. Keep in mind, this is an ability. This is active. In which she'll deal physical damage equal to 260% of attack to the enemy with the highest HP. This attack ignores 30% breach and crit resist. This is very, very dangerous, okay? Not only is she doing 260% attack, which is huge, it's a warrior, but she's going to ignore 30% breach and crit resist. It doesn't say how much crit resist. It's just basically saying, you know what? From what I can tell, this is going to ignore all crit resist, which is very, very dangerous. Okay, breach is a form of basically ignoring your defense or reducing your defense further, which I don't agree with, but I'll talk about that in another video. But if she truly does ignore crit resist, this is a very potent and dangerous ability. So what is Drunkard? Drunkard basically inflicts a debuff where the status owner hit rate is negative 20%, making it harder for them to land the attacks. When attacked, though, the caster loses 20% of their attack as HP. Up to a maximum of 5 times. This is going to be important. We're going to talk about how many times things go off and what she's going to be really, really good at. After taking Drunkard damage 3 times, though, she'll freeze the enemy for 2 turns. That's right, freeze. There's no chance here, guys. This actually goes off, which makes this an even more dangerous ability. Drunkard continues for 2 turns, cannot stack, and cannot be removed. Well, cannot stack. Okay, look. It's a 2-turn cooldown, and it lasts for 2 turns, so you can consistently apply Drunkard as long as you can get the attack off. That's the key here. If this warrior is frozen, stunned, or immobilized in certain ways, she can't trigger the attack and land the Drunkard debuff, which is what you want to try to do to shut her down, but it's the same with a lot of warriors. So eventually she will trigger this, but if you have the high enough speed and you can shut her down, you can prevent this from going off, because this is a very, very dangerous and potent ability for a couple of reasons. One, she's hitting hard, ignoring crit resist. Then she applies a debuff that when the caster is attacked by you or an ally, they're going to take Drunkard damage, which is basically another form of damage. Okay, so you have the damage on a skill that triggers from her. You're going to trigger Drunkard as well, okay? You have your allies triggering Drunkard as well. So taking damage 3 times will freeze the enemy. If you have this warrior paired with warriors who attack multiple times in a turn, it really increases the potency of this warrior's ability to immobilize the enemy. Because keep in mind, this is not saying it has a 50% chance to freeze. It's saying it will freeze. And from what I can tell, it actually freezes. I've actually seen freeze go off several times on a single warrior. I slowed down the battle and I was watching them a couple times. I swear I've seen freeze go off twice on most warriors, but I also seen it go off 3 times on the same warrior in the same turn. It's ridiculous. Now, generally, I was led to believe through various emails and communications and updates to the game that freeze, because of how powerful it is subject to immobilization resistance. Okay? I don't know yet if it's subject to the advanced Purify rune. I don't know yet if it's subject to the artifact gear that gives you a 30% chance to not be immobilized. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it does, and it's going to make it one of the best. You're going to want to try not to be frozen is all I'm saying. With the right team comp, this has the potential to stun an enemy or immobilize an enemy for quite a bit, or at the very least shut them down the way that Aranea's spider web does when being attacked. She has the ability to bind them. I have a feeling that if you put these 2 warriors together at max potency with a couple of multi-attack phase attackers, you can really piss off somebody. But anyway, so Drunkard, hit rate, caster loses X% when being attacked, takes 3 damage 3 times, will freeze the enemy. Keep in mind, again, if Drunkard is not on there, the sooner you get this out, the more successful, and sooner successful you're going to be at freezing the enemy. Very, very potent ability. Go to turn 2 ability. Attacks the enemy 4 times, deals 90% of attack as physical. Each 4 times, damage is dealt, damage plus 15%, and the enemy's breach plus 10%. This one I'm still testing because, okay, it doesn't say that it stacks. It doesn't say that it lasts until the end of the battle. Right now, the best I can tell you right now is it lasts till the end of the turn, and I don't know if this is actually applying. Let's say she's slower. Let's say you have a Bialissa in there and the Hare, who attack multiple times, which are going to be 2 really good warriors for this. They attack, let's say 6, 7 times, 8 times. And you would almost want her to be slower so that when she goes in and does this, she actually hits much harder. So that's why we need more clarification if the 4 times actually counts from allies' attacks, if it only counts for hers, how many times does it stacks, and does it last into the next turn? Because if she's hitting 4 times, right? Well, each 4 times damage is increased. Well, if it increases only until the end of the turn, then she really isn't benefiting from the damage increase. So there's some clarification that needs to be done here. Her passive ability when receiving fatal damage, keep 20% of maximum HP, and freezes all beautiful warriors except oneself for 1 turn. I want to say that this freezes even your side of the field as well. She just freezes everybody. At the start of the next turn, she will restore 100% HP. Allies will restore 30% of their HP and deal damage to all enemies equal to 15% of their maximum HP, making it a huge, huge hit. Triggers only once, does not exceed 200% of attack. Okay, so they are learning to cap some of this damage on these much, much more powerful hits. So she has a cheat death times 1 per battle. She will keep 20% of her maximum HP, freeze everyone on the battlefield. Again, just point of clarification. I need to clarify because I haven't been able to trigger this ability in the environment that I have tested her in. Actually, that's not true. She's not immortal unless this isn't working as intended. If she's the only one on the battlefield, I just put her in a fight. She died. She did not come back to life. So I think you have to have somebody else on the field alive in order to trigger this particular ability. If she's the only one there, she won't trigger this. She'll die and the battle will end. So just keep that in mind with a grain of salt on how this works. Now, if she does take fatal damage and your allies are still at full HP, for instance, they're still going to heal 30% of their maximum HP whether they needed it or not. That's just how the game works. Her ultra rare skill here is very interesting. Again, playing into Drunkard when it's landed, as well as being paired with multi-phase attackers, is really going to pay off, because at the end of the turn, she'll deal mind attribute damage equal to 30% of attack to the enemy who has been attacked 3 times or more, and if they've been attacked 5 times, the damage increases to 40% of attack. This is huge, guys. However, much like Snow White, if you've ever seen the damage numbers, you look at Snow White and you're like, oh man, she does way more damage, and in some cases, Snow White never even gets her turn, and she does like 15 million damage on low-level enemies because of an AoE and the way that her ultra rare and passive abilities work. Well, this warrior is the same. I've noticed damage numbers extremely high, and it's not just because of the other abilities she has, it's because at the end of the turn, she will deal mind attribute damage equal to X if they've been attacked 3 or 5 times. So she gets credit for this damage, all because of your warriors attacking multiple times during a turn. Very, very interesting warrior. I really, really like her. It's not that I don't like the other warriors. I've actually come to like Snow White really well. Dima, the skill warrior, really, really like her. I even like the physical warrior. She's actually growing on me. But you need some particular setup for like the physical one. The break action one attribute healer outside of Bialissa, I like her, but I'm not really impressed with her. But this one, very well put together warrior. Not just from a standpoint of being able to freeze, she'll pair very well with the other mind attributes, the newer warriors like Bloom, and I forget the DPS before that, who specialize in freeze. She'll pair really well with them, but where I think she's going to shine is actually everywhere. PvP, both multi-target PvP as well as multi-target PvE, And I can't wait to use her on bosses because I use warriors who attack multiple times because of Aranea in my single target bosses because she just exponentially increases damage. I look forward to pairing her with single target damage as well because of this ultra rare ability. Pair them with Bialissa, the Hare from the physical attribute, and others who attack multiple times in one turn, and you have the potential to really boost her damage, but also do a lot of damage to the enemy team, as well as immobilizing them. She has a high chance to immobilize. What I need clarified again is whether or not Freeze is subject to immobilization resist. I think that would be good, but because of her damage potential and ignoring crit, this 260 actually needs to be reduced. Yes, like come on, in all fairness, it needs to be reduced. This turn 2 ability needs to be clarified because if it only triggers on her attack being attacked 4 times, there's no indication how long this lasts or if it stacks. It needs to be clarified. Outside of that, I can't wait to level this warrior up. I'm definitely taking her to 12. I would not necessarily recommend that you take her to 12, but I don't think you can go wrong. The other warriors require some type of team comp to really be effective per se. That's not the end all be all, but this one really pairs well again with a specific team comp and can really help you out with that freeze ability. I use freeze cores, bloom freezes, as well as gives my team a full resurrect and damage immunity. My ability to freeze an enemy is actually quite high. The problem is testing her out in high level attributes once I get her to at least 11 star, because high level attribute and high level game content have massive amounts of immobilization resist. It's very, very difficult to immobilize them. And when you do, they can actually get out of it because they use cores, they use advanced purify and things like that to get out of it. I look forward to testing her out in that environment. PvP, I can see her being a monster. Can you imagine pairing her freeze ability with Aranea's bind ability just for fun? Just to annoy the enemy team? I would have fun with that. Very well-rounded warrior, and I don't often say that when it comes to G123 outside of those 2 particular points I mentioned. Definitely add her to your roster if you want a good, well-rounded mind attribute warrior. And don't forget to participate in the event, guys. If I were you, use books to pull to at least 9 star. Maybe even more if you want to. And if you want to kind of balance that out, participate in the warrior quest. I was able to complete stage 50 because of her freeze ability and her damage ability, just having her at 9 star and using the warriors I had available. Now, I do have other warriors available that you probably don't, and I don't know how that pans out. But use the exchange shop to buy your books every day, particularly the arrival summons for all 14 days, and supplement with your gems to get this warrior as high as you can if you plan on using her. So, that's my advice, guys. Let me know in the comment section if you have her. How far did you rank her up? Are you enjoying her? Do you agree with the analysis of her abilities as well as her ability to freeze in a particular team comment? I can see a lot of people probably sending messages to G123, but I will not be one of them. I tried that with the fish and it just doesn't work. So maybe they'll tone it down after seeing her in action. But anyways, guys, like, comment, and subscribe. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your drunkard master pirate here. And I'll see you in the next one.